This is the beautiful and unique story of an American man in his 30s who visits a remote Chinese village inhabited only by women from a minority tribe. At their request to help them continue their lineage, he ends up impregnating all 32 of them. Before we dive into the video, please hit that subscribe button and give us a like. It really helps us out. Ethan Miller, at 31, had a relatively stable career in the United States, working in the marketing department of a major tech company in Seattle. He was immersed daily in countless advertising plans and market analyses. He enjoyed a salary and benefits many would envy. But one day, he was suddenly struck by the question, is this really the life I want to live forever? To others, his daily life might have seemed perfectly fine, but he yearned for something to passionately challenge himself with. Since his late 20s, he had enjoyed traveling whenever he could. During short vacations, he'd explored neighboring countries like Canada and Mexico, all parts of Europe, reveling in the thrill of encountering unfamiliar cultures. Someday, I want to take all my time and embark on a path less traveled. As he entered his 30s, this dream began to take concrete shape. What if I could discover a business opportunity in some uncharted, remote land and bring it to the world? People around him called it reckless and tried to dissuade him. But eventually, he made up his mind. Packing his severance pay and savings, he left his company as soon as he turned 31. Initially, he considered South America or Africa. But while researching China, he read articles about minority ethnic groups in the southwestern highlands and gorge regions of Yunnan and Sichuan, who lived in isolation, preserving their traditions. Among these stories, some even whispered rumors of an undiscovered tribe consisting only of women. This piqued his curiosity immensely. If such a place truly exists, couldn't I collaborate with them on some innovative business? And a community without men, what special story might lie hidden there? These thoughts wouldn't leave his mind, and eventually, he slung a backpack over his shoulder and boarded a flight to China. After a brief stay in Beijing, he headed straight for Kunming, the capital of Yunnan province. He gathered information from backpackers he met at local guest houses and cafes, and from a few NGO workers, but most reacted to the story of a women-only tribe as if it were an urban legend. However, a very small few mentioned, I've heard there's a village with almost no men in a gorge area, about 6.500 to 9.800 feet above sea level, near the border of Sichuan and Yunnan. I don't know the exact location or name, though. Ethan soon used his own money to hire a local guide and a vehicle. Setting off on a treacherous journey towards the northwest, he wandered through plateaus and gorges for 2 weeks but found nothing. Was it just a rumor after all? Just as his disappointment grew, an elderly villager mentioned, there's a legend about a tribe where men left due to ancient wars or conflicts, and only women remained, hiding deep in the mountains. Who knows, maybe they still exist. The direction he pointed to was a faintly marked area on the map. People rarely go there. You could say the road practically ends. Hearing this, Ethan felt a surge of conviction. This is it. This must be the place. It might be dangerous, but I want to try. The guide shook his head vehemently. That's a place even I can't go. How could you? This is as far as I go, he said. Ultimately, Ethan had to use the guide for part of the way and then find his own path using public transport, a motorbike, and his own 2 feet. During this process, an unexpected accident occurred, and a Chinese guide who was accompanying him was seriously injured. Ethan had no choice but to leave him in an intermediate village and explore the remaining path alone. It was a reckless adventure that could have cost him his life. But he didn't turn back. I've come this far. I can't give up now. After several days of traveling along the gorge, a section truly devoid of human presence appeared. The path had mostly disappeared, forcing him to abandon his motorbike and proceed on foot. As he navigated a precarious trail alongside a cliff, he saw a magnificent view of a river flowing far below, but he had no time to appreciate it. The fear of the path collapsing was overwhelming. Finally, one afternoon, while crossing a dilapidated iron bridge, Ethan misstepped and found himself in peril. Luckily, he managed to grab a rope, narrowly avoiding a fall, but he sustained injuries all over his body and collapsed from exhaustion. If I don't get rescued here, it's over. Just as his consciousness began to fade, he saw a light, like a torch, approaching from a distance. He thought he heard women's voices. "Hey, are you okay?" A voice called out. A mix of Chinese. Ethan, too weak to explain his situation, just mumbled, "Help me." He lost consciousness and awoke in an unfamiliar hut. He smelled a campfire, and his backpack was beside him. Looking around, he saw a woman who appeared to be in her mid-30s. Looking at him with concern. "How much does it hurt?" "We treated you quickly," she said. Ethan tried to get up but groaned as his body ached. "Thank you, I got lost." "It's okay," the woman replied. "You're lucky to be alive." Beside her, another young woman stared at him with wide, round eyes. Both seemed to be communicating using a mix of English and Chinese. "Excuse me, where am I?" Ethan asked. "This is our tribe's village. We are the Taigo people. We don't have men here, so you're a welcome guest." In a way, the woman smiled, and Ethan's heart pounded. Is this really the place I've been looking for? He managed to sit up. "I'm American, and I traveled a long way to get here. Would you possibly be able to take me in?" The woman tilted her head. Our tradition doesn't allow men. But seeing you in danger, it's hard to just turn you away. However, I need to discuss this with our village chief and the others." That night, Ethan stayed in the hut to recover. He had a fever, but the women gave him herbal infusions to drink and applied poultices to his wounds, caring for him diligently. Thank goodness, they seem like kind people. I hope they're not hostile towards men, he worried. But the atmosphere wasn't antagonistic. Instead, he felt a strangely curious gaze upon him. The next day, feeling slightly better, Ethan met Lusa, a woman in her 40s who was the village representative. She explained that currently, only 32 women lived in the village, ranging in age from their 20s to their late 40s. They were part of the Taigo minority, and for various reasons, all the men had either died or left for the cities, leaving only the women to protect their homeland. "We came to distrust men long ago and have lived almost completely cut off from the outside world. But since you were injured and lost, we decided to take responsibility and treat you," Lusa said. "Thank you," Ethan replied. "Actually, I came here intentionally looking for this village. I heard rumors of a unique tribe where women lived self-sufficiently without men, and out of curiosity, I came to explore potential business opportunities. I had an accident on the way, but I made it here anyway." Lusa asked, "Business opportunities? What do you mean specifically?" He continued to explain. "If you sell the crops, medicinal herbs, and handicrafts produced here to cities or overseas, you could make a profit. But you've had difficulties because you lack roads and communication with the outside world. I'm thinking of helping you form a cooperative and sell your products." "Of course, only if you want to. And I do have some experience." The village women murmured amongst themselves. "I've heard of cooperatives, living without men. We never dreamed of large-scale trade or external sales. What if he's just trying to use us to make money?" There were also voices of suspicion. Ethan tried to persuade them. "No, I will definitely be fair and share the profits with you. As a foreigner, I don't have much of a foundation within China, but I can help through online platforms, social media, and exporting overseas. We'd be partners." In a way, after a night of discussion, most of the women agreed. "Let's give it a try, even if we feel like we're being tricked. If things stay as they are, our village has no future." Lusa concluded. "While you stay here, let's try to learn how to run a cooperative and sell our products." However, a few remained wary, expressing caution. "Now that a man has entered, we don't know what problems might arise." A few days after Ethan began organizing the cooperative, the village atmosphere started to change. He assessed the production status of various grains, medicinal herbs, and handicrafts and proposed methods for storage and resource management. The women were surprised. "We never thought of that. We just practiced small-scale self-sufficiency." They decided to experimentally record harvest yields and distribute them communally. Ethan was also planning to visit nearby cities or other villages to find routes for selling high-quality medicinal herbs to external markets. Some of the women volunteered to act as interpreters and guides. Among them, the younger, more enthusiastic ones requested training, saying, "We want to learn too." During this process, the women gradually began to approach Ethan more openly. The women in their early to mid-20s, finding it novel to see a man, would playfully strike up conversations. Those around 30 expressed sincere interest, saying, "We've never worked alongside a man like this before." Some in their 40s confessed, "We've lived without men for so long, and at this rate, we won't have children. We've been wondering if we'll just live and die like this." Seeing Ethan, their hearts were considerably swayed. Then, one night, Shang Li, a woman in her mid-30s, knocked on Ethan's door. "Can we talk for a moment?" Once inside, she confessed, "The truth is, living without men, we haven't been able to have children. We've been very anxious that our population is declining and the village will soon disappear. Your arrival has given everyone hope." When Ethan replied, "Yes, I've heard about that," Shang Li added, "You know we need to reproduce, don't you? But we're still hesitant to make an official proposal." The meaning was clear. They wanted children. But with no men, could he fulfill that role? Ethan's mind raced. Do they really want multiple women to get pregnant? Shang Li continued, "Most women in our village would want that. But we're being cautious because we haven't known you for long. Honestly, I want to have a child myself. I'm in my mid-30s, and I think it will be difficult to conceive if I wait much longer." He stammered, "It's a lot to take in. But if you all truly want this and it's mutually agreed upon, I suppose I could help. However, group pregnancy like this," Shang Li said, "Please wait a little longer. I'll discuss it with everyone. If we reach an agreement, we'll formally ask you. There's no coercion." And then she left. A few days later, a village meeting was held. Originally, it was to discuss the cooperative's operations and shipping schedules. But at some point, the topic shifted to, what should we do to increase the village population in the future? Many women exchanged opinions like, without children, there's no future. And, even if we accept outside men, they might not settle here. Then, the radical idea burst forth. We have Mr. Ethan Miller, an outsider man, here. Besides, isn't he working like the head of our cooperative and gaining our trust? Couldn't he cooperate in helping us have children? Ethan, flustered, stammered, "Well, this is sudden, but if you all really want it." Most of the women strongly asserted, "We do. It's necessary for the rebuilding of our village and the preservation of our population." Some suggested, "This doesn't mean every woman wants it. How about we proceed only with those who wish to get pregnant?" Someone else worried, "Wouldn't it be difficult for those of us in our mid to late 40s? While almost all women in their 20s and 30s were in favor. Eventually, they reached a consensus. Among the 32 women, those of childbearing age who wished to, about 20 of them, would try to conceive with Ethan, taking turns. If children were born, everyone would raise them communally. Even if Ethan left, the village would take responsibility for the baby and mother. However, they hoped he would stay if possible. Ethan was bewildered, but on the other hand, the thought that he could play a decisive role in saving this community filled him with a strange sense of duty and emotion. Is this really possible? Me? With so many? He clutched his head, but when the women looked at him with pleading eyes, saying, "We have to do this. If you don't want to, we understand." But Ethan relented. "All right, let's do it. But mutual respect and consideration must be the premise." When the meeting ended, the women cheered. "We can really have babies. Our village might not disappear." Ethan smiled awkwardly. "They're so happy. I can't be irresponsible." Subsequently, a pregnancy project schedule was created within the village. Among the 10 women in their 20s, 10 in their 30s, and 12 in their 40s, more than half of those in their 40s expressed hope, though their chances of conceiving might be lower due to age. Nevertheless, they decided everyone would try to keep the possibility open, concerned it would be physically demanding for Ethan. They made a schedule where he would be with 2 to 3 women per week on a rotational basis. The women also joked, "Let's provide him with nutritious food and proper rest. We can't have him collapsing." For a month, Ethan spent his days in a whirlwind, managing the cooperative and spending time with the women in turn. Naturally, some women developed feelings of affection and love, while others approached it purely as an act for the sake of having a baby. It was an emotionally delicate situation, but the entire village had already agreed, and they maintained peace by minimizing jealousy or disputes as much as possible. The women in their 20s, teasingly saying, "I'm young, I'll get pregnant quickly," enjoyed sweet moments with Ethan. Those in their 30s were relatively more serious. "I never thought I'd have a child like this. I'm so glad you came." Some in their 40s cautiously worried, "What if I can't get pregnant because I'm too old?" Ethan reassured them, "Don't worry too much. If it doesn't happen, it can't be helped, and if it does, it's a blessing." They all had desperate reasons for wanting to conceive. A village of only women, without children, would eventually cease to exist. "We need to see our descendants." That desperation was palpable to Ethan. As a result, the women took meticulous care of him, providing nutritious meals and taking turns giving him herbal massages or preparing herbal baths to prevent physical exhaustion. Ethan, though finding the situation bizarre, was touched by their kindness. "With all of you taking such good care of me, I can work hard too," he joked. Being the only man in the village was slightly awkward, but such a warm atmosphere had formed that things proceeded without major issues. Thanks to the women taking turns working on the cooperative, the schedule didn't fall behind, and Ethan also led meetings intermittently, proposing development plans. "When the children are born, let's also prepare the environment and education for raising them." The women readily agreed. "That's right. When the kids grow up, this village will be even livelier. We'll need schools and medical facilities too," and immediately began discussions. Meanwhile, in a corner of everyone's heart, there was a prayer. "Please let the pregnancies be successful." A little over a month later, 2 or 3 women in their 20s reported missed periods and morning sickness-like symptoms and took pregnancy tests. The results were all positive. "I'm finally pregnant," they shouted, running around the village, and the news spread like wildfire. When the remaining women also took tests, several in their 30s got similar results. Within a short time, news spread that 5 or 6 women were pregnant. "Wow, it's really happening." They were overcome with emotion. After that, other women gradually confirmed their pregnancies, and when 2 or 3 women in their 40s also showed positive results, everyone was ecstatic. However, some still had no news, or their tests were negative, indicating failure. "It might still be too early. Let's try for another month or 2, they said, not letting their guard down. Ethan was speechless. Almost over 10 women are already pregnant. "It's unbelievable. Something incredible is happening." The women laughed. For one man to cause so many pregnancies at once, "It's legendary." Ethan, embarrassed, said, "Don't put it so extremely." But he felt a sense of pride. The village turned into a festive atmosphere, and as the number of pregnant women increased, the need for food and nutritional supplements grew. They decided to invest a significant portion of the cooperative's profits to buy simple supplements and food ingredients from the mainland. They also considered stationing a nurse or midwife. Unlike in the past when they lived without men, this was now possible because they had some financial foundation. "Wow, we've changed so much," they rejoiced. Eventually, after about another month, most of the women who hoped to conceive had succeeded. Almost all the women in their 20s, a significant number in their 30s, and about half of those in their 40s shared the good news. The village instantly became a place where dozens of pregnant women roamed. Everywhere you looked, you could see women with swelling bellies, and many were down with morning sickness. Ethan had to ask, "Are you feeling okay?" and take care of them. But with so many pregnant women, it was overwhelming to look after each one individually. The women formed self-help groups for pregnant women, assisting each other. "When you're tired, lean on my shoulder. You lie down and rest," they said, taking turns, so things ran surprisingly smoothly. In short, In this remote village, one man and over 20 out of 32 women became pregnant simultaneously. The scene was truly spectacular. In the past, the place was silent, devoid even of young men, let alone the cry of a baby. Now, it was set to be bustling with many babies. Our tribe is being revived like this. The elderly women shed tears. In the old days, when the men left, we thought it was the end. But who knew there was such an ingenious way? Ethan himself found it absurd. How many children's father am I becoming? Yet, seeing everyone so happy, a corner of his heart warmed. With a wave of pregnancies, a mass birthing rush was coming in about 8 months. In the meantime, the cooperative ramped up its efforts to increase profits. Once the babies were born, money would be needed for formula, medical care, and so on, so they had to earn it in advance. Ethan negotiated with external parties and significantly increased the shipment volume of medicinal herbs and handicrafts. For example, they developed additional items like wild vegetables, rare mushrooms, and interior accessories, promoting them under the Taigo Tradition brand. The response was good, and the cooperative's profits rose considerably in a short time. The pregnant women, though burdened by their heavy bodies and suffering from nausea and dizziness, were immeasurably happy. The fact that I can finally have a child is this joyful. The 20-somethings were full of excitement, and the 30-somethings were moved, thinking, I'm finally becoming a mother too. Among those in their 40s, there was some anxiety, but with the help of a nurse, they managed one by one, holding on to hope. Okay, let's think of this as our last chance and do our best. Ethan arranged several beds in a warehouse converted into a makeshift clinic for systematic care of the pregnant women. He hired an external nurse at considerable expense to be stationed there, and pregnant women could visit and consult her whenever they felt unwell. The women also took turns sharing household chores and farm work, ensuring pregnant women could rest as much as possible and get proper nutrition. Though Ethan was the only man, what the numerous pregnant women truly needed was the care of other women. Even if he thought it would have been easier with more male labor, that was due to the men who had left in the past. So it couldn't be helped. One day, torrential rain poured down on the village, causing the gorge water to rise and creating a flood risk. The pregnant women had to be kept safe, and there was a concern that the grain and herb warehouses might be submerged. Ethan immediately worked with the remaining people to build embankments and divert the water. It was hard work in the rain, but everyone united, and thankfully, they avoided major damage. A pregnant woman in her 40s, witnessing this, expressed her gratitude. It's really reassuring to have a man around. Of course, we women can do it ourselves, but your leadership gives us strength. Ethan replied, it's thanks to everyone working together. I'm just helping out. There were several such major and minor crises, but the village gradually learned problem-solving know-how. As the cooperative stabilized both internally and externally, the grand vision of having children, raising them, and making the village prosper became a reality. As pregnancies reached the 6 or 7 month mark, women cradling their bulging bellies became a common sight. Look at all our bellies. It's truly amazing. They laughed, patting each other's stomachs. If Ethan was nearby, they'd playfully say, "Hi, Daddy." He felt shy about the title but was deeply moved. Around the 8th or 9th month of pregnancy, the nurse and the cooperative meticulously prepared for childbirth. They set up 3 temporary birthing buildings to handle multiple labors simultaneously. They supplemented the scarce manpower by inviting 1 or 2 additional nurses from the mainland. The women clumsily learned childbirth techniques together and established a system for easy reliance when their bellies became uncomfortable. Though Ethan was the only man, cooperation among the women was more crucial here. If about 20 of us give birth at once, it'll be chaotic, they joked, half worried. Finally, around the 10-month mark, the first labor pains began. A woman in her 20s screamed in the middle of the night. "My stomach hurts." The nurse, mothers, and Ethan rushed over. After 6 hours of agony, a lusty cry erupted around dawn. "The baby's out, healthy." The whole village cheered. Just 2 days later, another woman in her 30s went into labor. And on another day, a woman in her 40s, after a difficult labor lasting several hours, safely delivered her baby. It was truly a serial birthing event. Over a period of about 2 weeks, more than 20 pregnant women gave birth one after another. There was even a day when 2 women delivered simultaneously. This large-scale birthing scene was astounding. The nurses, flustered, exclaimed, "We've never seen anything like this. So many births at once in one village." Other women took turns assisting, weeping, "We have babies again. This village is full of new life." Ethan stayed by the mothers' sides, holding their hands, wiping their sweat, and helping with their breathing. When several women were in labor at once, all 3 buildings were full. Baby cries erupted here and there in the darkness, creating a scene almost like a circus. Fortunately, all deliveries were successful without major incidents. 2 older women in their 40s were in danger, but the nurse and her team responded swiftly and managed to deliver the babies safely. After a birth rush that lasted nearly a month, close to 20 babies were born. In other words, a village without men suddenly had over 20 newborns. It was a scene that bordered on electrifying. A month or 2 after the births, once the mothers and babies had stabilized, the village held the largest festival it had ever seen. Never in our village's history have so many babies been born at once. This is a complete miracle. Everyone was excited. In the central clearing, they roasted meat and corn, cheering and dancing even without alcohol. The new mothers participated, holding their babies, but since they couldn't overexert themselves, other women, and Ethan, as the only man, brought them food or supported their arms. Ethan was revered like a hero, our chief who saved us. And indeed, at the peak of the festival, the celebratory tossing in the air began. "All right, our chief gave us children, so we must toss him high to honor him." As applause erupted, Ethan, embarrassed, waved his hands. "You all are more amazing. I just helped." But dozens of people had already grabbed him and lifted him up. 1, 2, 3. As his body rose and fell with the count, the babies blinked their unfamiliar eyes. And the mothers watched, delighted. Amidst the cheers, he was overcome with the emotion. "I've truly become their father and leader." From the moment the babies' cries filled the air, the village landscape changed completely. What was once a silent place now started each morning with the sound of crying babies. Mothers busily changing diapers or breastfeeding. Ethan was the only man. He too now spent a significant portion of his day caring for the children. Of course, it was impossible for him to take individual responsibility for all the babies. But as their father, he helped by holding them when mothers were tired or soothing them when they cried. And since he also had to manage the cooperative's affairs, his sleeping hours dwindled. Fortunately, the women took turns with part-time childcare, household chores, and hospital errands, creating a large family synergy that ran smoothly. The saying, "It takes a village to raise a child," was realized here. The cooperative was now seriously generating profits, bringing in amounts previously unimaginable. The village planned to use this money to equip medical and educational facilities for the children. They contracted an external hospital to have a nurse visit 2 to 3 days a week for regular checkups. They also secured vaccines and basic medicines, making life much safer than before. Furthermore, there was a suggestion to build a small classroom and provide basic play-based education once the babies turned 2 or 3. Ethan presented a blueprint. If the children grow up only in this village, their perspective might be too narrow. So let's also have them go out to the city for experiences. In the long term, we could even have students attend city schools. The women were filled with hope, exclaiming, "Wow, to think we could dream of such development." A community of 1 man, 32 women, and around 20 newborn babies was truly an unprecedented structure. If outsiders knew about this, they might be shocked. But for now, the village, blocked by rugged mountain ranges and valleys with poor accessibility, remained largely unknown. However, a few civilians or NGO personnel who visited were utterly astonished. How could 1 man father children with over 20 women at once? The village women proudly stated, "He saved us all. We did it by mutual agreement. And thanks to him, our village has been revived. Ethan simply replied, it was possible through love and community spirit. As the babies turned 1 or 2, they started crawling and babbling together in the clearing. Some mumbled, Mama, while others ran to Ethan calling him, Daddy. Ethan would embrace them all, often getting confused. Right, whose mom were you? Ah, was this child's mother in her 20s? Then the mothers would giggle. Ah, Daddy can't keep track. This one is mine, pointing to their child. On one hand, it was a complete collective upbringing, giving him a strange feeling of, you are all my children. But mostly, the mothers would laugh and reassure him. Don't worry too much. The primary care for the child is still by me and my friends. Now, everything was truly becoming prosperous, and the village became a better place to live. The saying that life was hard without men became a thing of the past. Now, everyone agreed, we have a man, the cooperative is successful, we have many children, and we have a future. However, with Ethan as the only man, if there was a shortage of labor or skills, they might consider bringing in other men from the outside or integrating with the city to further increase the population. Some women mused, yes, if the opportunity arises, we might accept another man and even marry him. But for now, they were cautious, saying, our chief is enough for us. Too many men might cause chaos. One early autumn morning, under a high, clear sky, the villagers were harvesting corn in the fields. The children, now around 3 years old, some toddling after their mothers asking, Mommy, what's this? Or grabbing a cob of corn and running. I want to give this to Daddy. If a mother shouted, be careful, it's muddy, the child would giggle and run on. Ethan, after finishing his cooperative work spreading compost, helped a child carry corn in a small cart to wash it. Well done, our baby is so clever, he'd say, patting the child's head, and the child would beam. The village, now home to over 20 growing children, was bustling all day long. Cries and laughter filled the air. Mothers took turns changing diapers. And even the nurse, sometimes grumbling good-naturedly, I'm losing my mind giving so many baby vaccinations a day, would be smiling. Despite everyone being busy, there were few complaints, only words like, we're so proud to hear all these baby cries we dreamed of, were exchanged. The cooperative had firmly established its economic independence, stably selling agricultural products and handicrafts. As income increased, they renovated the village and installed solar power generation facilities, ensuring ample electricity. Every evening, lights would turn on, children would flip through books under the bright lights, and mothers would discuss with Ethan or the nurse things like, what kind of play would be good for the child's brain development today? Though it was an extraordinary community of one man, 32 women, and 20 to 30 children, it was filled with warm family love. One evening, another grand feast was held. This time, the reason was that the cooperative had signed an annual contract with a major distributor in a large mainland city, causing village income to soar. Normally, they would celebrate simply, but now with children, it evolved into a large-scale banquet. A huge bonfire was lit in the clearing, and everyone, well, Ethan and the women, gathered, cooking and sharing corn, beans, and wild greens. Children ran around, giggling, and mothers shouted, be careful, don't go near the fire. But the atmosphere was infinitely peaceful. After the food had been passed around, someone shouted, we have to do the toss today too. Of course, the star was their chief, Ethan. People cheered and gently lifted him. 1, 2, 3. His body lightly floated in the air and then came down. The children, looking on with unfamiliarity, some clapped, some burst into tears, but soon the mothers soothed them, making the situation even more joyful. As Ethan was tossed, countless scenes flashed through his mind. When I first came here, I had an accident and barely survived. I created a cooperative in a place without men and revived the economy. And then, group impregnation. It's hard to believe, but everything succeeded like this. After the feast, Ethan went for a night walk. The moonlight illuminating the valley and cliffs was like a painting, and the wind was cool, Suddenly, a few of the children's mothers followed him. "Chief, tomorrow we need to plant seeds in the field for winter. We have to get up early," one reminded him. Another woman asked, "My child had a fever during the night. Could you take a look with the nurse tomorrow?" Ethan smiled. "Oh, really? Of course. I'll go with you tomorrow morning." Life here was arduous, but the sense of achievement and warmth from helping each other and succeeding together was on a different level than the comforts of city life. Watching 2 or 3 children playing with a ball near the village entrance, he thought, "Those children are all mine too." It's truly hard to believe, but a deep sense of pride welled up within him. Looking around, mothers in their 40s Saturday on chairs, rocking their babies to sleep, while mothers in their 20s playfully ran around with toddlers in their arms nearby. Mothers in their 30s, while working on cooperative documents, would immediately rush to comfort a crying child. Though busy, smiles never left their faces. Actually, this village was on the verge of disappearing without men. But now that there are many children, it can become an even larger community in the future. And someday, if necessary, we might accept outside men, interact with the city, and truly expand our big family. Ethan mused. That was already in progress, albeit cautiously, as rapid changes could bring chaos to the village. As years passed, the children would need elementary schools, and secondary and higher education would also have to be considered. The cooperative would grow larger, producing more products, so improving infrastructure and logistics would be essential. There's no end to the things that need to be done. He chuckled, but he believed that with this loving family to do it all with, and with the entire village relying on each other, nothing was impossible. One night, Ethan lay in his hut under the dim light of a small lamp, watching a baby sleep soundly. The mother was asleep beside them, and outside, the wind blew, rustling the leaves. I really could be the father of over 20 children, even if this feeling is hard to believe. It's all true, so the emotion feels new, and my heart warms. When he first came here, he never imagined it would turn out like this. The world is unpredictable, and when a certain adventurous spirit and circumstances combine, they can unfold a completely different life. If, in the future, this village's story became widely known, people might call it an unbelievable fairy tale, but for those involved, it was a tangible reality and a form of happiness. If the unprecedented case of 32 women collaborating with one man to achieve multiple pregnancies, resulting in children who revived the community, became known, many might be intrigued and try to visit. By then, this place would likely have proper schools, hospitals, and a reasonably accessible transportation system, ready to appropriately welcome outside visitors. In any case, the large family structure of this village was expected to continue. Ethan might develop a special love with one woman, perhaps playing a central role even among what was effectively a communal marriage. And more children might be born. Everything was fluid, but what was certain was that this once remote place without men had transformed into a large family community where one man and 32 women cooperatively built their lives. The scene filled with celebratory tosses and children's laughter was now the daily life of this village. In the middle of the day, in front of the cooperative warehouse, mothers brought their harvests for weighing. Babies who had just started walking played around, and Ethan would film it to report to overseas buyers or post on social media. As the magnificent surrounding mountain peaks enveloped the village and the valley breeze blew coolly, the women would exclaim anew, "Our lives have truly changed completely. Before, we were destined to disappear in silence. But now, with children chattering every day, we don't even know how the day goes by." They'd laugh. The fact that one man handled so many pregnancies at once remained an amusing anecdote. But those involved took great pride in having saved their community, even if it was in such a way. And whenever another festival was held, even for no particular reason, the cooperative's sales are good these days. "Let's celebrate." A feast would be thrown. And at that feast, the celebratory toss was a must. "Has our chief gotten a bit heavier?" they'd joke, lifting him into the air again. And the children would watch, clap, and call out, "Daddy." All of this was like one giant family photograph, Finally, Ethan resolved that someday, when the children grew up and saw the world more broadly, he would tell them, "You were born in a very special village. You had one father and many mothers. But thanks to that, our village survived." How the children would understand it was unknown. But at least the children raised in this village would grow up feeling with their whole beings what family and community meant. The Taigo, great family, community, prospering with celebratory tosses, laughter, and the cooperative's business, would continue on.